as how to make some change on the local level. Usually, I would say that after the program that we develop, mostly in one community, 1 to 2 or 3 years, depends on funds, actually brought some kind of changes on the personal development for each of the participants, but also we strengthening and make more numbering the youth groups, and I think that it quite helped to change the perception of the community about the youth and about seeing why it's necessary to work with youth. On the national level, I think that Youth Coalition of Serbia was the most affecting, and also we as an organization, we see that this was one of the one of the really models that that other maybe civil sector can learn from this is the way how we make this institution to be somehow built and to be established in society of Serbia, which was very transitional society with many change and shifts of the governments, and it was really hard to put youth as an agenda on the national agenda for one side, and on the other side actually to have a stable decision makers that you can really negotiate with, because they were changing quite a lot in this period. This what we was doing on the local level actually, and as a coalition we were supporting many local coalitions to be built, and for sure this base that we create was very important for what was doing on the national level. On the national level, we mostly advocating just to bring the first phase, just to bring this topic on agenda, but then actually we was having quite a lot of activities trying to bring the decision maker to speak and to talk to us. I will give you an example of one of activities, but Dušica, you can join and also give your overview of how we work as a Youth Coalition of Serbia at this moment. Since nobody went on the national level from the governments to speak to us, we, upon one occasion on the conference when they didn't come, even if they were called to come, we decided that it was about, I don't know, 41 towns involved to organize the activities of stopping the work of the government for one day. For example, we all organize as youth groups, and I think it was 177 youth groups from 41 towns with more than 60,000 youth activists who were involved. We called the Prime Minister office, the President office, the Ministry of Finances, Ministry of Education, and all political parties' central office from 8 to 5, and we blocked their work. It was only one question, and it was the question of, is this Ministry of Youth? At this time. And I think this kind of activities actually brought attention to the public, because it has a huge coverage by the media. Media here are quite working this way to be sensationalistic. No? And on the other side, it was actually also somehow a message to the governments that it happened in '95. So it was in the half of the way. First, 2005, sorry. It was in the half of the way to our campaign. And first we was really building the local, how should I say, the base and the local groups, and how try to change something in the small level on the local community. And it was very hard to attack that. And I think that these kind of activities where we used to block the work of the government, and they start to speak with us, because the Prime Minister at the time, Vojislav Koštunica, called the Ministry of Education and delegate him to talk to us. From this time, we actually start to speak with the governments.
Change public opinion in a positive way, or like
it
can also yield to a negative effect of.
Well, usually it can be seen negatively if you stop the cars on the street, but if you block the work of the government.
What do you mean blocking work of?
They couldn't call anybody. It was whenever they try to call somebody, somebody was calling and saying, "Is the Minister of Youth?" So the whole telephone lines, fax machines, and the email was blocked by the same and very simple message is the Ministry of Youth. I think that the activities that we had in that period really affect the way how the citizen perceived us in following that. Youth was being perceived, like is it a problem sometimes? Then we are present in media because there is a problems, or because you speak that youth is affected. But in general, there was no numbers, there was no topics, etc., etc. But during this period of campaigning and advocating, you could see that even they change. During, for example, pre-electional campaigns, they changed the way of how they was speaking to the youth. You could see that they was changing the way, what kind of topics they start to speak. You see that they start to actually try to perceive the youth as somebody who can be important for them, to vote for them in that way, not to speak only about youth leaders, not to speak only about violence that was most somehow seen as important for youth, but then to speak about employment, to make promises about employment, to speak about mobility, to make promises how to deal with the visa regime. So there was actually a different way how they were speaking to us, at least during the election period. But you could also see that it was more present in media as well, different perspectives.
Like some youth groups which are normally with less opportunities, like these young people, they were from university students, or there were some working youth or some other kind of youth who are not normally involved in the youth organizations?
Well, we actually tried as a civic initiative specifically to develop the youth sector in a way to involve that youth through the youth sector. There is the way how we try to be more present everywhere is to be geographically, dispersed. Also as a coalition, we deal that way. We also involve students, but the students here are not, like the group who is excluded usually. They are quite participative, especially because of the tradition of the resistance, because from resistance there was a student union, Serbian, and other student organization developed. So it's a strong partners. But if you want to speak about youth who is less than, they are from the small towns, or they are from different kind of vulnerable groups that actually was recognized. Roma people, or all refugees, or other kind, of the groups who is actually marginalized under the other criteria. So that is a challenge for us as an organization. At that time, for the advocacy, it was a challenge how to involve these groups, how to involve youth more.
What extent did you manage to involve these vulnerable groups?
I can speak about that it was not a focus in advocacy. It was more focused in our programs, or the programs of the PRSP strategy, and I will speak after that. Maybe it's better to speak after you on these issues. But through the advocacy, actually, you're trying to involve everybody, And of course, there are some who will be more easier to involve than others, but we try to be more speaking about the number and speaking about the base, how to make it more how to make it bigger, so how to make it to be perceived as a more power in that way. And from 2005, which I would say that it is a kind of these activities that we done and conduct and somehow create an attention of the government towards us, we start to negotiating how to develop the first institution, which will be the first institution. I may say that this first proposition, we just said no. Okay, it was a working group within the Ministry of Education, so we said no, thanks. We want something that really could be somehow important, could be perceived in the administration as important, could have some kind of power to try to develop and set up some processes that need to change on the end, the youth position. So we continue negotiating. We have many, how should I say, options that was on the table, but finally it finished in a way that even for us was a surprise. We got the prime, we got the ministry itself, and it actually changed the way of how it was called before. It was always called in